always love to hear the sound of applause here for On the Air. Sully, little Tommy Russ T Nailz, great to have you along today.
Yeah.
As we practice social distancing. Hey, Russ, how are you? Great to see you.
Good, thanks.
You scratch your head there a little bit.
Oh, yeah, good. Thank you.
He is. Oh, my God. So in an effort to demonstrate social distancing today, we thought that we would show that we can do this show anytime, anywhere. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Rusty Nailz from the... looks either prison or
It's a long story, trust me. But no, I am safely in San Diego somewhere. That's undisclosed.
Good. He's undisclosed location, social distancing. Tommy, how are you? Great to see you, Tommy.
I'm doing great.
Tommy Sablon.
I like practicing social distancing as well. I believe in it. And Russ, what's up?
Hey, right there. Give me a little fist bump.
Yeah. You know, I believe how important, you hear the news and you see how important this is.
Yes.
But I hate it. I hate not having interaction, and so Russ, Russ and I text each other, and we live a mile away from each other. I mean, have you been out at all, Nailz?
A little bit. I went over to Milton's and got myself, little corned beef sandwich the other day, but that was drive up and pick it up and go home. Drove out to see my mom, 90 years old. She is picked up my mail out there and said hi, but
and they say that's not a good thing to do.
Go see your mom?
To go see your mom, yes, of course. Because I've heard so many times experts saying, if your parents are older, just call them. Make sure they're okay by phone. Well, you don't need to go see them.
Jared, can you bring up on my Facebook page or if you go to Sully Speaks or Sully on the Air, my parents live in a gated community, one of those senior communities. Mm-hmm. They won't let them in or out. Okay, so all I can do is drop off groceries. But I got the greatest text message from my mom the other day.
What did it say?
And basically it says, we're so proud of you. And I said, I've been really busy. Can I bring you guys something? And basically she says, we just need a little bit of, we need some paper towels, some almond milk, and 3 cases of Chardonnay. I'm not kidding. Right. She said 3 cases of. If you follow me on Instagram at Sully Speaks, or actually on the Air SD, we'll have it. I'll post it up there. But honestly, they need 3 cases of wine out there.
That's great.
They know exactly how they're doing.
What happened with my mom? I called her 5 times and she didn't answer. I started to freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I took my dog and I drove out there to double check, but she was talking to her cousin in Chicago and didn't want to make him mad. And she doesn't know how to answer another call when another call comes in. And so I walk in the house. I go, Mom, I'm on the back. Hold on, Chuck. My son's here.
Yeah. Here's my look at this post here. So he goes, hey sweetie, so nice. The wine is Charles Shaw. We need 3 cases.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So my parents know how to do it. So here's the deal. We have a huge show today, but we decided to do something a little bit different. Instead of having multiple guests, Tommy, with his ultimate black book of contacts, booked the best guest ever. Talk about it.
This is a San Diego icon. He is the most famous mascot in all of history. Ted Giannoulis. The San Diego Chicken, the KGB Chicken, will be right here for the whole show.
Nailz, weren't you there in the beginning of the KGB Chicken? You were on the air, right?
Yeah, well, this was 1974, I believe, when the KGB thing started, and he came out of I think it was San Diego State, just farting around, and decided, well, I'll do the job, and ended up walking through the stands, and I laughed every time I saw him. In fact, it was the only reason I went to see a Padre game in about 74 and 75, because they sucked so hard.
Well, I'll tell you, he's going to be in studio.
Wow.
The San Diego Chicken. If you're a local San Diegan, you know him as the KGB Chicken.
He is always
the KGB Chicken.
The KGB Chicken.
Yeah, and of course, since our show is on the air with Sully, Little Tommy, and Russ T Nailz, it's going to be the KGB Chicken.
Yes.
I wonder if that works for him. All right, here we go.
Wow.
Do we have a shot of him? Is he in the green room? There he is.
Wow, there he is.
And here he comes.
What?
All right, on the air, Sully, Little Tommy, Russ T Nailz, and the KGB Chicken coming up. It's on the air with Sully, little Tommy Russ T Nailz. Great to have you along, all of us practicing social distancing, and Rusty really practicing social distancing.
Way far away from you two.
I am so excited because as a native San Diegan, born and raised here in San Diego, let me bring you back to a gentler time, Tommy, if I could, Rusty. Mm-hmm. The year was 1974, and a very chubby Bobby Sullivan, ignoring the jeers of the other kids at Marston Junior High School, going to a Randy Jones ball signing at San Diego Stadium, saw for the first time, I give you the KGB Chicken.
Yes.
Man, that was about. So first of all, it's a pleasure to have Ted Giannoulas.
He's an icon.
He's an icon in San Diego. He's an icon nationally and internationally.
Yes.
And it's great to have you along. Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure. Fellas, I got to tell you, I can't believe I'm in the same frame with all these San Diego broadcasting legends.
Wow.
Thank you.
For him to even say broadcasting legend, when Tommy said this was going to happen, I just sat down and said, if you can pull this one off, then
let
you
me say
deserve the
this.
Hall of Fame trophy.
Well, let me say this. Thank you very much. Ted Giannoulas is right here. San Diego native. KGB Chicken, the world famous chicken, the famous chicken, the San Diego chicken. Can you take us through how it all started, that very first moment?
Oh, believe it or not, guys, it was about 46 years ago this week.
What?
I was on the campus at San Diego State University, and all this happened by fate, by complete happenstance. The day before Easter break, back then, the campus was fairly deserted, and it was about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I decided to go and hang out at the campus radio station for a few minutes, KCR. And so student run, it was just the size of a closet. I come in, and there were about 4 or 5 guys and gals just sitting around, just shooting the breeze over what we're going to do over Easter break. And so I just join in, and I'm sitting in the back of the room, and in walks a gentleman from KGB. His name was Bill Degasher,
Yes.
long-time salesman there. But at this point, he was relatively new there himself, and so he was just starting out there, but he came to the campus to try and recruit anyone, to wear a chicken suit for about 10 days to go to the zoo and give away candy Easter eggs.
But how did he choose you? Did you fit the part? Were you the right
you
size?
fit the suit?
Believe it or not, it was all just by chance. He walks in. It was 2 minutes that changed my life, believe it or not. He stood there in the doorway, asked everyone who wants to do this. We all volunteered. He cautioned, no one's going on the air. It's just for $2 an hour, and you got to wear a chicken suit.
Yeah.
And so we all still volunteered. Big deal. Okay, we'll wear a chicken suit. If you asked us to empty trash cans or shine records, we still would have volunteered.
Yes.
You know, anything to get our foot in the door at a real radio station.
It's so interesting to talk about the pivoting point in one's career.
Oh,
I mean, I remember when a sales guy called me and said, "Hey, would you like to do an hour on a local radio station, just talk about business and stuff like that?" And then I get a phone call 6 months later from Cliff Albert saying, "Hey, do you ever consider doing radio full time?" And I remember the exact moment, and for you to bring that out, it's interesting because the trajectory of your life changed completely at that point.
And San Diego.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you changed the history of San Diego. Okay, so now you say yes to Bill.
Well, here's the deal. We all volunteer. He's got to pick one guy. He looks around the room. He finally spots me in the far corner. He says, "You, the short dude, you'll fit the costume best of all." Just like that. Fellas, no job audition, no interview, not even a job application to fill out. He just hired me on the spot. The next day I had to go to the zoo, give away candy Easter eggs to all the kids. Did that for about 10 days. Also up to the wild animal park.
Were you the KGB chicken?
Yes, KGB Chicken. I had the call letters, had a paper mache outfit. Quite honestly, this way different than what I'm wearing today. It was a little on the, well, let's put it this way. It was a little scary looking, for
Scary little kids.
So paper mache outfit.
So when did it skyrocket? Because okay, so now you're giving away eggs at the zoo.
Yeah,
It's
they
a
must have saw
promotion.
you. They must have seen you do something goofy to say, "Hey, let's bring him over to the stadium."
Like when did you say to yourself,
Didn't you think, hey, I can get into some Padre games here if I approach them and say, let me walk around the game and just give eggs out or something?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, my deal was done, and I was going back to KGB, and I heard on the radio that the Padres are starting opening day. And being a big sports fan, I figured, I'll bet I can get into the game for free with this getup. So I literally do a U-turn before going in and turning in the outfit, and went to the game on opening night and goofed around there a little bit in the grandstands. Fans had fun with it.
Wait a second. Wait a minute. So nobody gave you permission. This is just your idea. You're going to walk in there and dance around because you figured it was a free Padre game, and nobody, you didn't have a media credential. This is just your idea.
I just called up the Padres, see if they let me come down. They said, come on down. If you can get us a plug on the air, that'd be nice. And I got them a plug on the air, basically, and then went down and did the game. And goofed around.
Right about that time, though, I remember it started to catch on with other radio stations because everybody was separate back then. You know, there was every radio station owned by one organization.
That's exactly right.
KFMB, I used to do photography, promotional photography for KFMB, and I opened this closet down the hall, a promotional closet, and there this crumpled, ugly-looking KFMB costume was sitting there, and they were planning to counter the chicken with the bee.
Oh, I see. So there was going to be a KGB.
KSON even tried to counter it. I forget what their mascot was called, but everyone tried to counter you. But you are the famous
Ted,
KGB Chicken.
Hey, Ted, let me ask you this. So, at what point did I mean? Look, at the first time everybody saw you, it was one of those things like everybody's in the stands and they looked at you. You made it so you were a part of the game. At what point did you go from in the stands doing this on your own to having an organized? This is what you get to do from now on.
Well, I had so much success in the grandstand, making fans laugh. The Padres seemed to enjoy it. Ray Kroc, the owner, loved it. And it was about 2 years later, the Padres president, Ballard Smith, called me up, and he invited me to go do some stuff on the field. And yeah, believe it or not, he says, you're having so much success, you want to try something on the diamond with the players in the middle of the game.
So were you kind of a drama Freddy? Were you hammy and all that stuff off, out of the suit, or were you just this little Canadian that came to San Diego and hit it big?
But believe it or not, Rusty, I started discovering another side of my personality, putting on the second skin. It was almost like a Jekyll and Hyde transformation.
Yeah,
because you're sliding around. You're an acrobat.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to attract attention through a little comedic bits and humor, comedy, that sort of thing. Trying to attract attention for the radio station, which miraculously the ratings started going up.
Yes.
What was your first move? What was the first move that you remember was like your go-to move? Because I remember, of course, the sliding but in the stands, was there a go-to move in the beginning?
It's got to be the Steve Martin thing.
It's got to be the Steve Martin thing,
Oh
right?
yes, oh yes. Oh, I enjoy doing it. It's always become a signature.
There it is.
Crazy chicken. I got to tell you, the watershed moment for me, Sully, was when the Padres let me go on the field for the first time. I had no idea what I was going to do. It was in the fifth inning, and the Padres had it all set up for me. You just go on the field. What you do, that's up to you. And I had no idea because the Padres were shooting their first TV commercial, and they wanted me to be a part of it on the field. So I jumped the railing in the fifth inning. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in the left field corner, and I'm running down the foul line.
And people are cheering like crazy.
They're going nuts.
Yes.
Oh, it's 46,000 people there. It's a kids' night. People are screaming, the chicken's on the field. They're going to kill him. But everyone looks like they're having a good time. I still don't know what I'm doing as I'm running to the diamond. And then I see the third base umpire, the late Art Williams. And he's laughing as I'm running on the field. I'm thinking, okay, there's a friendly face. I'll go to him. And as I go to him, I extend my hand to shake his. And the moment he grasps my hand, it comes to me. As I'm shaking his hand, I'll walk away, but pretend he pulls me back. And then I'll pick an argument with him for the prank.
Ah, that's right. And you started kicking dirt on him just like Billy Martin. It's fantastic.
Hey, when we come back, I got to ask you if it's true that you truly made $50,000 in one gig. Is that true?
Okay, hang on. Don't let him answer. Stay right there.
Wait a minute.
That's how you keep in the driveway, by the way.
That is not chicken scratch, my friend. That is big coin.
That's exactly right. On the air, Sully, Little Tommy, Russ T Nailz, and the chicken. Stand by.
Hey, I'm Mark Mathis, KUSI, with the very famous San Diego Chicken. How are you, man? Good to see you. Today, we're going to have some foul weather in San Diego. Oh, I am so sorry about the foul thing there, because you're a chicken and I'm making foul jokes. But listen, if you're watching right now, I really appreciate that. You stay tuned to KUSI on the air with Tommy, Little Tommy, and Big Tommy, and Russ, and Sully, and Big Chicken.
On the air. Nailz, I gotta tell you, I'm impressed with the social distancing that's going on with you.
Yeah.
Of
I'm
course,
trying to
Rusty
say, I
Nailz.
wish I was there because I want to put that costume on. I know I'm a little taller, but maybe someday I would be able to
Do
do
you
that.
remember, Nailz, when you were on 91X and the KGB Chicken, of course, just as much of a part of radio as any of us back in the day. But what was interesting is that nobody knew who he was.
No.
Like the name didn't even. There was at some point I remember somebody thought it was Rusty Nailz for a while. I remember no, honestly, when I was at San Diego State, somebody said, well, "Hey, I think it's Rusty Nailz."
But it was cool. You were cool if you knew it was Ted Giannoulis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
I would easily do that to make $50K on one gig. I know that not only in baseball, but you went all over after losing the KGB thing and being the San Diego Chicken or the famous Chicken. What was the $50,000 gig?
Well, believe it or not, Rusty, it came in 1979 after I had been fired by the radio station. We came to loggerheads over career growth of philosophical differences in a chicken suit. Let's leave it at that. Anyway, but I was fired. This was my first game back as a free agent chicken. And it was June 29th, 1979 at the Murph. Now, to set this up, emotions were running high in San Diego.
Sure.
Chicken got fired, and station felt they were in the right, and I was out on my own. So be it.
By the way, San Diego felt you were in the right, if you recall. Do you remember?
Yeah, I recall. Yes.
Wait, hold on. I'm still employed by KGB. We were in the right.
We're
all friends
That's right.
now.
You were on KGB in the afternoon. I forgot about that. Yeah.
But what they did too, if I'm not mistaken, they put someone else in the chicken suit and sent him out, and that person in the suit got booed.
Yeah, that was brief, and I think that lasted one game basically.
Yeah.
That was short-lived. But still, by that point, I was. My name was public record, and I was out there, and everyone knew I'd been discharged. But this was my first game back, and I designed my own chicken suit at that time, the one I'm still wearing to this day.
Chicken.
And I was going to have this elaborate grand hatching ceremony at Jack Murphy Stadium, where I hatched it of a gigantic styrofoam egg.
That's right.
To debut this outfit. Well, I got with the Padres, and they wanted me to stay with them for the rest of the season as an independent contractor, and they were going to pay me about $300 a game for the rest of the season. But I asked them something special about the first night back, and they figured, what's the big deal about the first night back? We're almost in last place. We're playing another bad team that night, Houston, and so we came to an arrangement where I asked the Padres president, Ballard Smith, if he'd be okay paying me $1.50 for everybody I could draw over their average attendance that particular night.
Wow.
And believe it or not, he said, okay, what the heck? If that's what makes you happy, let's try it. Okay.
do it.
He didn't think anything of it would come of it.
How did you, this is way before social media. This was when there was classified advertising, radio advertising, and television. How did you get people to come?
I got to tell you, Sully, I promoted it like a wrestling match. I went on other radio stations and newspaper interviews, magazines, what have you. Anybody who had a microphone, I would talk to them, and I promoted that my grand hatching night. And it started getting all kinds of attention. And on that particular night, believe it or not, more than 47,000 people turned out to Jack Murphy Stadium for the grand hatching.
And you almost didn't make it out of that egg. I don't know who made it, but they must have fiberglassed the outer
I
rim.
remember you were fighting your way through that thing.
That's a good point, because I was inside this styrofoam egg that was chiseled out of a huge block. And it was a little thick. And there I was rolling around in it, and it was time to kick out while they're playing 2001 Space Odyssey. And I'm on the field while everyone's watching. And then I tried kicking and tried knocking it open, and it would not come out. I swear I was caught in there, and I wasn't going to get out. But finally, it just exploded, and out I popped, and
The crowd exploded, man. We love to see
Yeah,
that.
I remember. I was there at that game. I remember my friend Jim Serpa, Mike Farman, myself, a bunch of guys that worked at Price Club at the time, had gone down there just for the event. I mean, it was, if you're a San Diego local, there was one of those things like Dave Rickards landing the Sky Shuttle. I mean, it was an iconic event.
Well, believe it or not, a lot of baseball historians have called it one of the greatest sports promotions in modern history. The fact that a guy in a chicken suit could fill out an entire stadium like that just to debut a new costume, it shows you the emotion, the laughter, the humor the town had, for something so irreverent as this. But they came out, and the Padres were beside themselves. They couldn't believe it. And from there, it kind of like launched my career nationwide and around the world. In fact, even all the networks brought out news crews to cover the grand hatching.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'll go even better. The local TV stations interrupted local programming to go live to Jack Murphy Stadium to show the grand hatching.
Before we go further with the story, because there's so many questions, and luckily today on the air, we're going to have the chicken throughout the entire show today. Going back to your college days, when you were there and you just happenstance got chosen because you fit the suit. I mean, what a classic story. How'd you get the job? I fit the suit. What was your major? Where was the arc of your story going to go originally had you not put the chicken suit on?
The arc of my story, Sully, was still to get into the ballpark for free. I wanted to be a sports writer.
No kidding.
So my major was journalism, and I got my degree in '76. And the whole idea was eventually just to go to the ballpark for free and report on sports. But instead, I started getting involved in sports, mostly, again, playing in the grandstands and goofing off for the fans. But a way to help service the game, you might say.
And speaking of those grandstands, the most famous San Diego Charger play was the Holy Roller.
Yeah,
when you think of the Raiders and the Chargers, you think of the Holy Roller.
The Immaculate Reception, the Holy Roller.
But the Holy Roller is famous because of you. Tell us about that.
Oh, Tommy, this was an emotional moment for San Diego sports fans. I think it was about 1977 or so. Chargers were in first place. The Raiders were visiting, and winner got to keep first place. And on the last play of the game, while the Chargers are winning, and the Raiders are on the 14-yard line with about 8 seconds left for the last snap, they had to have a touchdown to win. A field goal would not do it. And the snap was made. The Raiders handled the ball, and Stabler, the quarterback, was running with it. He was about to get sacked, and so he purposely fumbles the ball.
Darn.
And now it turns into a rugby scrum as one Raider is batting it ahead to another Raider, pretending trying to get the fumble. And eventually, they succeed by landing on the ball in the end zone. Final play makes it a touchdown. Everybody's going berserk. Nobody can believe it. And I'm in the grandstand, and I'm having a seizure.
A long seizure.
A long seizure. And they caught it on NFL films, and they plugged it in there.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's become legendary since.
I have to ask, because that's the next chapter of the story, is because, first of all, it was always Padre games and Charger games. And then suddenly, we started seeing you on ESPN. Suddenly, we started seeing you on the NBC Nightly News with Ted Koppel. We started seeing all of this B-roll footage. When we come back, I want to visit from when you went from local star to national star to international star, because it really is an unbelievable story. Ted Gianola here with us on the air. Russ T Nailz, I think I'm kind of liking this version of you this time.
Me too. I like not being there yet, which I was there.
All right, more stories with the chicken coming up. Little Tommy, Ted Gianola, a.k.a. the KGB Chicken. Russ T Nailz, I'm Sully. See you in a sec.
You never know what to tell you, try. Asking not be the question why. Just gotta go with it, hope though it makes no sense. And I just gotta say,
Wow, what a pleasure to have all of these radio legends here. Russ T Nailz, little Tommy, Radio Hall of Famer.
Yes.
He's got the Emmy in front of him. He's got the Hall of Fame thing. I got my certificate of achievement from. I don't even know what it was from. And then the chicken. I'm once again. I'm at baseball fantasy camp for radio, and Ted, so great to have you in here. As three local San Diego boys, because we were literally delivering the Evening Tribune, the Green Evening Tribune, and we saw you. You know, and I went to Russ? You went to Helix High School, right?
Yeah, speaking of green.
Yeah, where did you go to high school?
Castle Park High School. High school was the best 5 years of my life.
Yeah.
And you know what? But I was 10 years old when you started, and I followed you your whole
I remember.
career.
I went to Claremont High I was at Claremont High I was at Marston Junior High when you started. I went to Claremont High, then I went to Valhalla High. But the entire city knew who you were, and that was the piece I found interesting is when suddenly the San Diego Chicken wasn't just at Charger games and wasn't just at Padre games, but now you are across the country on. So talk about how that started. When did the phone calls, and did you have an agent? Is that how that happened?
No, I had no agent. Literally, the teams started calling me up because of all the attention I was getting. And so they figured, maybe the Chicken might be a box office draw. So they started inviting me. Teams started calling me up. I started going to El Paso, Nashville, St. Louis. And lo and behold, fans started coming out in huge numbers, an extra 10,000 a night.
Do you know what's great about that, though? Let's face it, very popular, okay? And you could walk the streets without anybody bothering you.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the best parts about it, right?
Best of both worlds. Private when you want to be private and public when you want to be out there. I enjoy it all, but I love the anonymity and letting the Chicken get all the attention, and I'll play second fiddle.
At this, go ahead,
You
Russ.
were like one of the first mascots that then, after your presence was felt at a game, other teams got their mascots. None of them came close to you. Speaking of sports writers, Jack Murphy called you the Charlie Chaplin in chicken
that's
feathers.
right.
Well, thank you, Rusty. Yes, that's right. He did. It's a high honor.
Wow.
Not only that, but also the editors of the Sporting News put me in their top 100 sports personalities of the entire century. And it was really something. I couldn't believe it. It's amazing. You make a few people laugh across the country, and man, they remember it. I'm honored by that.
And you made a lot of people laugh because you hung out with us in the crowd. I mean, I'll always remember, and I've always wanted to ask you this. Was it true when you fought Barney? Was that a true...
I remember you fighting Barney.
Was that a real, or was that a stage stunt?
That was a stage bit where I have Barney come out of nowhere, out of the dugout of the visiting team, and surprise me in the middle of a dance act, and then complications ensue. We slap each other around, and he wins the dance off, and then I finally tackle him. I got to tell you something, a little aside. The Barney people got so mad that they actually sued me over that.
No kidding.
Yes, they took me to court, but the courts ruled it's satire, it's funny, and they wrote a great review about my chicken act.
Yes.
And went to the one level under the Supreme Court, and they ruled in my favor. A unanimous decision.
Ted, it does get physical. Have you ever hurt yourself? I know there was one instance, I think, with the Chicago Bulls where a cheerleader was injured because of just interacting with her. Anything like that ever rise to the top here as far as injuries?
Oh, I've had ball players claim injuries and a cheerleader claim injuries, but nothing really serious. I gotta tell you, it's. I've done a lot of slapstick in I guess this is my 6th decade now. I've spanned 6 decades, and basically, I've been having a good time with this.
Well, what about you though? Because I remember looking at you, and as you were like literally sliding 12 feet on your stomach, a la Pete Rose. Did you ever suffer any injury? I mean, did you have your own personal therapist or physical therapist? Because obviously that was a rough job, man.
Well, when I'm talking about injuries, I'm talking about myself.
Oh,
you're
kidding.
right, Sully. Yes, I separated my shoulder. Believe it or not, I did break my foot one time dancing down the aisles of a hockey game in St. Louis for the St. Louis Blues. I missed a step and tumbled all the way down to the glass. Fans thought it was hysterical,
Yeah.
but I ended up breaking my foot. But I got a big laugh.
Typical actor, right? I mean, that's what it was all about, is getting the laugh.
Have you ever been to the White House?
Believe it or not, I have been to the White House, and I've visited with 3 presidents. It's hard to believe, but yes, I've visited with Jerry Ford and W. Bush and Ronald Reagan.
No kidding.
Yes.
And the occasions on every one of those things, was it, do you remember why?
When I went into the great moment at the White House was the first T-ball game. I was invited to be there by George W. Bush, and it was quite an elaborate scene on the White House lawn. And I was out there doing my shtick, coaching at the first base and getting on the umpires, and it was all televised on C-SPAN. And they had like 2,000 people, mostly photographers and journalists from around the world. And it was really something. In fact, I even made the front page of the New York Times the next day. Wow. Yes.
Okay, so as the business guy in this town, and I have to ask these questions all the time. When you're filing your taxes, what do you put down as occupation? I know guys are looking at sports pages and think about that for the first page. I've been thinking about this for years. What do you put down on your IRS form?
Well, believe it or not, I try to keep it straight, and I put down entertainer.
Okay.
As opposed to
Have you ever put chicken? Have you ever put down KGB Chicken or San Diego Chicken? I swear, I wanted to ask you that forever. With your busy schedule, how many gigs a year did you do at some point? I mean, at your peak and now, and so on and so forth.
Well, Sully, in the 80s and the 90s, and even back in the 70s when I was with KGB, not uncommon for me to do, when I was on the road, 250 days of the year on the road. But when I was working back in the 70s at KGB, I was out there almost every single day. And so out of 365 days, maybe 300 days minimum, I was out somewhere in the community.
Here, and I have one more question before, I know I'm stealing some thunder here, but I remember back listening to Russ T Nailz on 91X when I was a junior at San Diego State, and we would spend our Friday afternoons early at Diego's. And some of the conversations that would go around the table at Diego's in the 5-hour stint that you were sitting outside with Diego's, do you think he has more than one suit? So for all my friends, they're going to ask me, I have the chance to talk to you. Did you have more than one suit, or was it the same suit every day?
No, I had more than one suit because of the physicality of what I do. And it had a lot of wear and tear on the outfit. But I got to tell you, one of those costumes today is sitting in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Wow.
Stuffed and
Incredible.
mounted and fully on display. And it's been there for years.
I bet you good money that one of your costumes ends up in the Smithsonian. I'm not kidding, because you've been such a big part of that. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. I think so. I mean, you've been a big part of sports in the entire U.S., not just San Diego.
Well, you're very kind. I got to tell you something, Sully. Believe it or not, one of my chicken heads is resting in the Presidential Museum and Library in Grand Rapids, Michigan, for President Gerald R. Ford. He had such a kick over what I was doing that he had my head. He asked for my head to be stuffed and mounted on display.
They have that bronze head of Baron Hilton over at the Murph. They need to have the new stadium that SDSU's making. They need to have the chicken bronzed.
Here's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Concerts.
Oh,
rock and roll concerts.
It's exactly
You were
right.
famous for those.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a couple things. We got rock and roll concerts to talk about.
Yes.
We got a movie that we all owned because we were San Diegans that we have to talk about. And of course, I want to talk about also your most memorable moment, as well as the strangest moment that's ever gone on in a chicken costume. That's all coming up as we continue
And
on the air.
I want to find out who plays
On the air, Sully, Little Tommy, Russ T Nailz, Ted Gianolis, a.k.a. the San Diego Chicken. Gosh. Again, I'm sitting in the Radio Hall of Fame here. And suddenly, Ted Gianolis dancing in our studio. Stand by.
Well, I'm gonna make you sweat. I said, when it comes to funky, 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 funky love, you know I'm gonna make you. And even though we might be the time and try to work things out. Little things we fuss and fight about ain't gonna matter 100 years from now. Ain't gonna matter. Did I mention that it wasn't gonna matter?
Wow, what a day. Rusty, how you feeling over there?
I'm feeling good. I was just singing a little. You know I like my chicken fried. Okay, on a Friday night. Maybe not the right song for the.
Yeah. That one. Little Tommy, Ted Gianola, the San Diego Chicken. As long as you're around, you will always be the KGB Chicken.
Yes.
To most of us that grew up in San Diego, and that must have a good ring to it still.
Absolutely, and it's my roots. How can I? I'm telling you, I've come full circle from back in the days when I was fired. But that's radio. That's the way it goes sometimes.
And when you were at KGB, Sully just played Hollywood Nights by Bob Seger. If you go on YouTube and search Hollywood Nights Bob Seger, you'll see a video that's shot at the San Diego Sports Arena. I believe it was 1979, perhaps. And the opening scene is you in the crowd partying with the fans. That's how I remember you. What was it like going to all those rock shows at the sports arena, just partying with the fans and partying with the rock stars?
What a fabulous time it was, Tommy. I got to tell you. I think the pinnacle, I mean, I've been on stage with so many bands, but the pinnacle for me was the night I stopped Elvis Presley cold in the middle of his concert.
What?
Yes,
Where?
Yes, absolutely.
Was it the sports arena?
At the sports arena. It was about, 16 months before his passing. And he's singing a Jerry Lee Lewis song called Whole Lot of Shaking Going On. And his concerts, everybody had reserved seating. So the aisles were all pretty clear, as opposed to back then where there was festival seating for a lot of other rock shows where everybody was like shoulder to shoulder. But here's Elvis singing Whole Lot of Shaking. I'm thinking, there's a line in that song, we got chicken in the barn. Whose barn? My barn.
Yeah.
So while Elvis is singing, I dart up the aisle from the back of the arena, and I start dancing on the stage below him. Okay, and so while Elvis is singing, I'm dancing back and forth, and Elvis starts cracking up like crazy.
Oh my
and
gosh.
he's laughing so hard. Fellas,
great.
he literally goes down to one knee. He's laughing so hard. He forgets the lyrics. The band is playing, but they're in shock. They think Elvis is having a seizure. On
yeah.
stage.
Oh my gosh, that is so great.
And then the doctor runs on the stage while the band is playing and tries to administer to Elvis. He pulls out the stethoscope. He's got his black bag, the infamous Dr. Nick, believe it or not. And he gets Elvis to try to lay down. Elvis shakes him off. He points to me down in front. The doctor just swears an epitaph.
Yeah.
He puts away his gear, runs off. And Elvis gets back up, still laughing, wheezing, laughing hard. He tells the band to continue with the song. He finishes the number, okay? And then as the number finishes, he apologizes to the audience. And Elvis came up with a great line. He says, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you all can see, but you got to believe me, there's a chicken dancing down here on the stage. And the audience laughs, and they know, yeah. And then Elvis says, I'm going to warn this chicken of something. My manager's name is the Colonel. So I go, ah! And I bolt out of the place.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But I literally stopped the king cold.
Is that so? Memorable moments. I mean, talk about guys with memorable moments.
Yeah.
That's got to be top three? Would you say that's the most, or is there something that even peaks that, or are there several that come to mind?
Well, personally for me, the grand hatching at the Murph,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, seeing 47,000 people turn out,
Yeah.
getting a 10-minute standing ovation.
And the check.
And the check, of course. They paid me almost 50 grand for that particular evening. But it went all to my defense fund. You think I spent it as a birthday gift, hiring ZZ Top to play or anything like that? No, it all went as a chicken defense fund for me, and it worked. It sustained me.
Hey, speaking of the San Diego Sports Arena, I recall seeing you on stage a couple times. Weren't you on stage with a bunch of rock bands?
Oh, a lot of them. Oh, everybody from Geils and Sammy Hagar and Cheap Trick. There's so many big bands back in the day.
Tell us about Geils.
Oh, one of my favorite stories. literally, Peter Wolf on an encore brings me up on stage out of the audience, and I start dancing while he's singing up there, and they're doing this song called House Party. Ain't nothing but a house party, a big, blazing rocker. And I'm dancing like crazy right beside Peter Wolf, and Peter Wolf is like almost the Americanized version of Mick Jagger, and he's going crazy. So in the middle of the song, they have a harmonica player. His name is Magic Dick, and he's got a solo there in the middle of the song that's featured on him. And comes his time in the song, and he's not there. And I see Peter Wolf turn around and say, he looks back at Magic Dick. Magic Dick is laughing so hard at my moves, he's doubled over, okay? And he can't go, he can't play the harmonica. The band comes around to it, they bring the song around to him, and he finally gets it playing. But I mean, to think that I had a harmonica player doubled over like Elvis, laughing so hard at my antics while I'm mimicking Peter Wolf that he couldn't play. So, yes, I gotta say, the audience seemed to enjoy it, and I got quite a kick out of it as well.
Wow.
I remember folks trying to buy you beers and hand you a Padre, remember they used to give little bats out at the Padre games. So, what are the most? You got a lot of gifts from fans and anything that sticks out of your mind on stuff that you got along the way, because honestly, you were adored here in this city, and I got to believe that people regaled you a bit.
Well, back in the day when fans would hand me a beer, I'll give you a little secret. People thought I was really putting that away, drinking it all. I really wasn't. I was just using it for effect and pouring it down my beak and over my body. Under my
Wait.
Yeah.
So when I saw you at a concert or a game
Drinking
and you're
beer.
drinking a beer, what happened now?
Yeah, I wasn't really drinking it, believe it or not. I was just pouring it through my beak, and it was going right down onto my T-shirt and down inside me, all over my
Awesome.
my clothes. I couldn't drink. I mean, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I had to be I couldn't be inebriated at those things. I had to be aware.
Not even one time.
Not even one.
Not
time.
even one Padre game when Gary Templeton was out there, or Sixto Lescano, or Randy Jones. Not even once.
Well, maybe halfway.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe in that pennant year, maybe halfway on.
I woke up this morning. Actually, no. I woke up yesterday morning to go on News Radio 600 Kogo at 4:30 in the morning, and I thought to myself, God, I'm really lucky to be able to do this. But sometimes, getting up early, and I'm thinking, but I get to do radio, so what am I complaining about? Did you ever get to the point where you thought to myself, I got another game today? Was it always a pleasure every single time?
No, I got to admit, I really loved what I do, Sully. I mean, whether it was going ballpark to ballpark, minor league or major league, I enjoyed it all. I could not get over that people were. I was getting a kick. This is the truth. I was getting a kick watching other people getting a kick over my chicken stick. Yeah, I couldn't believe it, and I just enjoyed it. I thought it was a point of honor. And to see that many people happy and joyous in a community-filled ballpark, it really moved me. It touched me. And
I'm looking
I enjoyed every day.
radio a few years back, and I hear Rush Limbaugh talk about you like you're a god, because he used to work I think, for the Royals or something, and he thinks that you are the one person that brought an animation to life so people can enjoy it live.
Yeah, Rush Limbaugh gave me a great piece of advice back in the day when he was working at the ballpark. He took me aside and he says, Ted, don't tell anybody I told you this, especially the Royals, but you don't charge enough for what you do.
Wow. Wow.
And he says, get your prices up and don't tell anybody I told you that, okay?
I always tell people when I give business advice, you know how to double your sales?
How?
Double your prices. That's you double your price. Speaking of famous people, who would you say, in your estimation, was the most famous person? I mean, when you say Ronald Reagan, I got to say that's right up there. I mean, and honestly,
Elvis.
Elvis has got to be right there, right?
Elvis. I remember one time hosting a party. I was invited to host a Halloween party for kids up in Hollywood, and Jack Nicholson.
Wow.
Yes, Jack Nicholson came on stage, and we did a little banter together. That was enjoyable. But a kick I get out of, by the way, just touching on Rush Limbaugh again for a second.
Sure.
Believe it or not, when he was working with the Kansas City Royals, he would meet me at the airport to greet me, and the man actually carried my bags to the car and put them in. So
See?
you know, it's
Speaking of which, how do you travel with that thing? That's the thing. You gotta have a duffel bag. Is that how that whole deal works?
yeah, in a simple suitcase and a small duffel bag, and I literally carry it on board and tuck it up in the airline bin.
Ted Giannolis.
Yes.
What a! I don't even know how to ask you to come back because I could talk to you for another hour. You were fantastic. You're an icon here in San Diego. You're an icon nationally. It is such a pleasure to have you in studio. Give a big hand. Unbelievable. If you're at
Yes.
home, stand up and give the chicken.
Right here, Ted.
Well, I'll tell you what. Rusty Nailz, Little Tommy, Ted Giannolis, the chicken. I'm Sully. Christianicus, our director. Jared Coleman, our assistant director. Curtis Matovich, our floor director, floor cameraman, our keeper of keys. RussIsFunny.com because...
RussFatandBald.com was taken.
Follow me everywhere at Sully Speaks. Follow us on the air, SD.
You ain't gonna do. You ain't gonna do.